The very first Stone Age tools were made 3.3 million years ago in Kenya, before humans even existed. That's right, our ancestors who weren't even human yet were smashing rocks together to make sharp edges while T-Rex was still a fresh fossil. Before I tell you more, quick thing, if these help you sleep, a like or subscribe would be amazing. And I'm curious, drop where you're listening from and what time it is. I saw someone from Tokyo last week saying it was already tomorrow there, still trying to wrap my head around that. Okay, tonight it's the entire history of the Stone Age. But wait, are you comfortable? No, really. Check. Pillows, blankets, the whole deal. Where we're going, you'll want to be settled. The sun hasn't quite risen yet. The air smells of morning dew, wild grasses, and something else. Fear. You're crouched at the edge of a watering hole in East Africa, your hairy knuckles resting on the dusty ground. The water ripples as animals come to drink on the other side. Gazelles, with their nervous eyes constantly scanning. Your mouth is dry, painfully dry, but something deep inside, instinct probably, tells you to wait. There's a reason the gazelles look so nervous. And there it is, a rustle in the tall grass, the low, rumbling growl of a predator. Unlike your cozy bed right now, there's no safety here, no walls, no door you can lock, just the wild, dangerous world where everything is either hunting or being hunted. And right now, you're definitely in the being hunted category. See, this is the world of your ancestors from 3.3 million years ago. And when I say ancestors, I don't even mean humans. Humans don't exist yet. You're an Australopithecus, basically a chimp that walks upright. Your brain, about a third the size of yours right now. Your body, short, hairy, with arms that hang low. And your chances of surviving past 30? Basically, 0. The predator, a saber-toothed cat with teeth longer than your fingers, has spotted easier prey than you. It lunges for a gazelle, bringing it down in a cloud of dust and terrified bleating. This is your chance. You dart forward, not toward the watering hole, but toward the kill. Wait, what? You're running toward the massive predator. Here's the thing about your existence. You're hungry. Constantly hungry. Your gut is literally designed to process massive amounts of plants, like pounds and pounds of leaves and stems and seeds every day, but you've started to develop a taste for something better. Meat. The problem is, you're a terrible hunter. You're not fast. Your teeth aren't made for killing. You don't have claws. What you do have, though, is a pretty decent brain for problem solving and hands that can hold things. As the cat drags its kill away to eat in peace, you and your small group cautiously approach the spot where it happened. There's blood on the ground, bits of meat. Not much, but to your perpetually hungry body, it's worth the risk. One of your group, let's call her Akka because she makes that sound a lot, has a rock in her hand, but it's not just any rock. She's smashed it against another rock, creating a sharp edge, and now she's using that edge to cut at the tiny scraps of meat left behind. This doesn't look impressive to your Netflix-watching, smartphone-scrolling brain, but make no mistake, this is a revolution happening before your eyes. This is the first technology, the first time a living being on this planet deliberately created a tool to solve a problem. The ground is hard and hot under your bare feet. Your stomach aches with emptiness. You grab another rock and mimic what Akka is doing. Smash, examine, smash again until you get a sharp edge. It takes you 15 tries. Your hands are bleeding, but now you have something that wasn't there before, a cutting edge. You cut away a stringy piece of meat from the ground and put it in your mouth. The taste is overwhelming, rich, complex, satisfying in a way that the plants you usually eat never are. Your body is literally flooding with endorphins from this tiny bit of protein. So, They're like, what, using rocks as knives? You're thinking. Big deal. Oh, it is a big deal. It's probably the biggest deal in human history, because what just happened is that your ancestors found a way to access high-density nutrition that would literally rewire their brains over the next million years. See, meat has something plant food doesn't: concentrated protein and fat that fuels brain growth, and brains need a lot of energy. Your modern brain uses 20% of your body's energy while only being 2% of your weight. It's an energy hog, and without those first stone tools to get at meat, your ancestors' brains would never have grown. The sun is higher now. The immediate danger has passed, but this is no relaxing day at the beach. This is survival, minute by minute. Your group moves through the tall grass, alert for predators. A child, no more than 4 years old, clings to his mother's back as she walks. He's watching everything, learning. Unlike other animals whose brains are mostly developed at birth, your species is born with underdeveloped brains that continue growing for years. It's a trade-off. Helpless children who take forever to mature, but who can learn complex behaviors. A scream cuts through the air. One of your group, an older female, has spotted a leopard in a tree. Too late, it pounces, landing on a younger male. The chaos is immediate. Your group scatters, climbing the nearest trees with the agility that comes from a body still adapted for life in the branches. Not everyone makes it. The young male is dragged away, his cries fading. You're breathing hard, clinging to a branch, the child next to you whimpering softly. Below, the leopard feasts. There's nothing you can do. You have no weapons, no plan, just the instinct to hide and wait. Hours pass, the leopard leaves. Cautiously, your group reassembles on the ground. There are tear-like sounds, gestures of distress, but no language yet to process what happened. Just the shared trauma and the instinctive comforting touches between group members. You continue walking. The landscape is a mix of savanna and scattered trees, the perfect environment for a species caught between forest life and ground life. By late afternoon, you reach a small stand of trees beside another watering hole. This is where your group will sleep tonight, up in the branches, safe from most predators. But before climbing up, there's one more thing to do, aka the toolmaker has found a dead animal, some kind of rodent. She's using her stone edge to cut it open to get at the meat inside. Others crowd around, waiting for a share. You find 2 suitable rocks and try again to make a cutting edge. Smash, examine, smash again. Your coordination is improving. After just 7 attempts, you have a sharp edge. You join the group using your new tool to cut away a piece of meat. The sun is setting now. Your group climbs into the trees, finding the comfortable notches where branches meet trunks. There are no beds, no pillows, no blankets, just the hard bark against your skin. Your full stomach and exhausted muscles help you ignore the discomfort. As darkness falls, you hear the night predators beginning their hunt. Roars, growls, screams in the distance. Up in your tree, you're relatively safe, but sleep comes in fits and starts, your body never fully relaxing, always ready to wake at the first sign of danger. This is what it means to be one of the first tool users on planet Earth. This is your legacy. The beginning of the story that leads to you, lying in your comfortable bed right now. Fast forward 500,000 years. The tools are getting better. Instead of just smashing rocks randomly, your descendants have learned to be more precise, striking at specific angles to create more predictable cutting edges. They're making what archaeologists will later call Oldowan tools. Simple choppers and scrapers. But something else is happening too. These proto-humans are starting to scavenge more effectively, following predators and waiting for them to finish, then moving in with their stone tools to crack open bones for the nutritious marrow inside, something no other animal can access. Their brains are growing from 400 cubic centimeters in your Australopithecus skull to 600 cubic centimeters in the new species emerging, Homo habilis, Handyman, the first creature that scientists would actually call human, though just barely. Climate change is happening too. Africa is getting drier, forests shrinking, savannas expanding. These early humans are adapting, becoming more efficient walkers, losing their tree climbing adaptations. They're committed to life on the ground now, for better or worse. Another 500,000 years passes. We're now around 2 million years ago. A new species has evolved, Homo erectus, upright man, and they're revolutionary. Their brains are now around 900 cubic centimeters, almost 70% of modern size. They look much more human, taller, less hairy, with body proportions similar to yours, but the most incredible thing isn't their bodies, it's what they're doing with those stone tools. Imagine a scene, 10 Homo erectus gathered around a fallen tree. They're not just making simple choppers anymore, they're carefully shaping stones into symmetrical teardrops with sharp edges all around, hand axes. The level of planning and fine motor control required for this is astounding. They're not just reacting to immediate needs, they're creating standardized tools that work for multiple purposes. And they're about to change the world. Because unlike every hominin before them, Homo erectus isn't content to stay in Africa. They're on the move, walking out of their ancestral homeland, spreading across Asia, reaching as far as China and Indonesia. The first great human migration. What makes this possible? Those incredible tools. The ability to adapt to new environments, and something else that will become humanity's signature technology, control of fire. The first evidence of controlled fire use dates back to around 1.5 million years ago. Picture it, night falling, a group of Homo erectus huddled around a small fire, the flames casting flickering shadows on their faces. For the first time in evolutionary history, darkness doesn't mean vulnerability. It means community, warmth, safety, cooked food that's easier to digest, releasing even more energy for those growing brains. But that's a story for our next section. Your eyelids are getting heavy now, in your comfortable bed, safe from predators, with your big, energy-hungry brain. You're the culmination of millions of years of evolution that started with those first simple stone tools, the ones made by creatures who weren't even human yet. From simple rock to hand axe, from scavenging to hunting, from tree sleep to firelit caves. The Stone Age had begun, and it would transform our species in ways no one could have imagined. And as you drift towards sleep, think about this. Every human being who has ever lived, from those first tool makers to you, has looked up at the same stars, felt the same basic needs, feared the same darkness. We are all connected by this shared history, this long journey from stone to civilization. The night is quiet now, except for the sound of your breathing, so different from the terrifying nights your ancestors faced. Sleep well, knowing you carry their legacy in every cell of your body. The fire crackles and pops in the darkness. 6 pairs of eyes stare into the flames, mesmerized. Their faces, too human to be ape, too ape to be human, glow orange in the firelight. One of them, a female with deep-set eyes and strong hands, reaches toward the flames with a stick. The tip catches fire and there's an audible gasp from the others. She stands, holding this burning branch like it's both terrifying and magical, which, let's be honest, it absolutely is. With deliberate steps, she walks to another small pile of wood a few feet away and touches the flame to it. A second fire blooms to life. Holy shit, they've done it, they've tamed fire. It's around 1.5 million years ago, and Homo erectus has just changed the game forever. Before this moment, fire was only something to fear. Lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, unstoppable destruction. But now it's a tool, maybe the most important tool ever. A child reaches toward the flames, curious. His mother, that same deep instinct to protect that you feel toward your own kids, slaps his hand away with a grunt of warning. He pulls back, crying softly. First fire safety lesson in human history right there. The night is cold, like seriously cold. A dry season in East Africa can drop to near freezing after sunset. Before fire, these early humans would huddle together, shivering through the darkness, just waiting for dawn. But tonight is different. Tonight, they're warm. One of the males tosses another branch onto the fire. Sparks swirl upward into the star-filled sky. The group shifts closer, shoulders touching, that orange glow turning their skin from its natural brown to something otherworldly. So they just sat around staring at fire all night, you might be thinking. Damn right they did, wouldn't you? It's literally the most revolutionary technology they've ever encountered. But fire did way more than just keep them warm. See, raw meat is tough. Your digestive system has to work overtime to break it down. But cooked meat, that's basically pre-digested. More calories with less effort. For a species evolving bigger brains that demanded massive energy, this was like hitting the evolutionary lottery. Fast forward a few thousand years, fire isn't just something they find and maintain anymore. They can make it. 2 sticks, some dried grass, lots of patience, and boom, flames on demand. Security, warmth, cooked food, protection from predators who fear the flames. Meanwhile, those stone tools are getting fancy, like seriously impressive. Imagine a hand axe shaped like a teardrop, worked on both sides to create a symmetrical tool with sharp edges all around. These weren't made in minutes. They took hours of careful work, the kind that requires planning, visualization, and fine motor skills. And get this, archaeologists have found some hand axes that are way too big to be practical. They're like the Stone Age equivalent of a sports car, made to show off, not for daily use. Look what I can make. Aren't I clever? Wanna mate with me? Same energy as a dude revving his Ferrari at a stoplight just 1.2 million years earlier. The scene shifts. We're now watching a group of about 20 Homo erectus moving across a grassy plain. The sun beats down, but they walk with the efficient stride of born travelers. Unlike their tree-dwelling ancestors, these folks are built for distance. Narrow hips, long legs, less hair, sweat glands that let them cool down while moving. A female shifts the weight of the baby clinging to her hip. The child is maybe 2 years old, but still totally dependent. Human babies, with their big heads full of developing brains, are born essentially premature. They need years of care. This group is on the move because they're following the herds. They've become seasonally nomadic, tracking animal migrations, learning the patterns of which plants are edible when. They're not just reacting to the environment anymore, they're predicting it. The leader of the group, an older male with a scarred face, stops suddenly, crouching low. He points. In the distance, a herd of something big is grazing. Elephants? No, something even more impressive. Straight-tusked ancient elephants, twice the size of modern ones. Wait, they hunted elephants, with sticks and rocks. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, they absolutely did. The hunting party, 6 males and 2 females, breaks away from the main group. They've done this before. They have a system. While the others find shade and water to wait, these hunters will spend the next several hours in a deadly dance with massive creatures that could crush them with one misstep. They don't rush in with spears raised, yelling like in the movies. Nope. They're going to exhaust the hell out of their prey first, hour after hour of pursuit, never letting the animals rest, following them through the heat of the day when most predators would give up. One of the hunters, limping slightly from an old injury, falls behind. The others don't wait. This is survival, not a charity run. Only the strongest and fastest get to participate in the most dangerous part, the final kill. By late afternoon, they've separated one younger elephant from the herd. It's still massive, tusks longer than a man is tall, but it's tired, confused, and alone. The hunters close in, using the landscape to their advantage, driving it toward a marshy area where its size becomes a disadvantage. The first spear flies. It's not metal-tipped. We're still 1,000,000 years away from that technology. It's just a sharpened wooden pole, hardened in fire, but thrown with precision, it pierces the elephant's hide. Not a killing blow, but it hurts. The beast trumpets in pain and rage. More spears, more wounds. This is not a quick or merciful kill. It's persistence hunting at its most brutal. The elephant, once so powerful, is reduced to a staggering, bleeding target. When it finally collapses from blood loss and exhaustion, the hunters approach cautiously. One thrusts a final spear into its eye, reaching for the brain. Death comes at last. The hunters don't whoop or high-five. They've just secured weeks of food for their entire group, but they've also witnessed the end of a magnificent creature. There's a moment of what looks almost like reverence before they begin the butchering process with their stone tools. By nightfall, the rest of the group has joined them. A massive fire burns, meat sizzles, the smell is intoxicating after days of roots and berries. The feast begins, and for a brief moment there is abundance in a life otherwise defined by scarcity. Look at their faces in the firelight. Really look. Beyond the heavy brows and flattened noses, you'll see expressions that would be familiar on any human face today. Pride, satisfaction, the comfort of a full belly, the safety of the group. These aren't just proto-humans stumbling toward evolution. They're people, different from us in body, but with minds that work in ways we'd recognize. They plan, they care for each other, they innovate, they teach. Speaking of teaching, watch that older female showing a child how to crack open a long bone to get at the marrow inside. She's patient, demonstrating the technique multiple times before letting the youngster try. This knowledge transfer, not just what to do, but how to do it, is uniquely human, and it's happening 1,000,000 years before written language. Years pass, generations, the climate shifts. Homo erectus keeps adapting, keeps pushing into new territories. They cross mountain ranges, rivers, deserts. They reach China, Indonesia. There's evidence they built rafts to cross bodies of water, suggesting a level of planning and cooperation we once thought impossible for them. The night is cold, much colder than anything their African ancestors ever experienced. A small family group huddles in the mouth of a cave somewhere in what will one day be northern Spain. A child coughs, the sound echoing against stone walls. The mother pulls him closer, wrapping him in an animal hide. Fire burns at the cave entrance, keeping predators at bay. The father chips away at a stone, preparing a new tool. The older children sleep curled together for warmth. Outside, snow falls, something their kind had never seen until they ventured this far north. They've adapted their tools for this harsh environment. Heavier hand axes for breaking through frozen ground, scrapers specifically designed for preparing hides that will become primitive clothing. They're learning to survive where survival seems impossible. And that right there, that ability to adapt, to solve problems, to endure, that's the legacy of Homo erectus. They weren't just a stepping stone to modern humans, they were incredible survivors in their own right. For over 1.5 million years, longer than our species has existed, they thrived across multiple continents, multiple climates, through ice ages and warming periods. As you sink deeper into your warm bed, think about those Homo erectus in their cave, listening to the wind howl outside, wondering if the fire would last until morning. They didn't have much, just stone tools, fire, and each other, but it was enough to survive, enough to raise children, enough to pass on their knowledge to the next generation. The flames flicker lower in our imaginary cave. The family sleeps. Outside, the storm rages, but they are safe for now, and as Homo erectus sleeps, evolution continues its slow work, preparing the way for new species that will build on their achievements. The hand axe makers have conquered much of the known world, but they're about to face competition from a new kind of human. Several new kinds, in fact. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that humans aren't the only people on Earth anymore. Like, there's suddenly another kind of human living right next door. Not quite us, but definitely people. Different, but recognizable. That's exactly what was happening around 300,000 years ago. The world had gotten weird, folks. Really weird. Homo erectus, those incredible hand axe makers from our last section, were still around in some parts of Asia, but in Europe and parts of Western Asia, a new group had emerged. We call them Neanderthals, and they weren't our ancestors, they were our cousins. Picture this scene, a valley in what will someday be Germany. The air is cold. We're in the grip of one of the many ice ages that punctuated the Pleistocene. A small stream cuts through the centre, the water so clear you can see fish darting between stones. On one bank, a group of Neanderthals are working. Their bodies are built for this cold, stocky, powerful, with short limbs that conserve heat. Their faces would stand out in any modern crowd. Heavy brow ridges over deep-set eyes, almost no chin, a nose broad and large to warm the air before it hits their lungs. So, they look like cavemen? Yeah, I guess. But that image you have of a slouching, grunting brute, throw it away. These weren't primitive ape men. These were people with brains actually larger than yours. A female Neanderthal sits by the stream, a pile of flint nodules beside her. Her hands move with practiced precision as she strikes one stone against another, but she's not making hand axes like Homo erectus. She's doing something more sophisticated. She's napping flakes off a prepared core, creating razor-sharp cutting edges that can be attached to wooden handles. This technique, called levallois, required planning, spatial reasoning, and incredible skill. It created tools that were lighter, more versatile, and used materials more efficiently. Nearby, a male is scraping a wooden spear with a stone tool, sharpening the tip to a lethal point. These aren't thrown spears. Neanderthals were close-quarter hunters. They'd get right up in the face of deer, bison, even woolly rhinos, stabbing with these heavy thrusting spears. Insanely dangerous work. Bet they couldn't talk though, right? Wrong again. Their hyoid bone, the one that supports your tongue, was just like ours. They almost certainly had language. Maybe not as complex as ours, but they talked. A child runs up to the female napper, holding something in his hands. He's maybe 7, and remarkably he looks like a child, not a miniature adult. Like modern humans, Neanderthals had extended childhoods, time for their big brains to develop and learn. Owner, the child says, using the word for mother in whatever language these particular Neanderthals speak. He opens his hands to reveal a small, smooth stone, unusual for its reddish colour. The mother takes it, examines it, then reaches into a pouch at her waist. She pulls out something surprising, a lump of red ochre, a natural pigment. She's been collecting these for years. No one knows exactly why, but across Europe and Africa, early humans were drawn to the colour red. For some reason, it mattered. She was like, "Neat rock, thanks for adding to my collection," I say in my best cave mom voice. But here's where it gets really interesting. On the opposite bank of the stream, another group appears from the forest. They move differently, taller, more slender, built for warmer climates. Their foreheads are higher, their features more like yours and mine. These are early Homo sapiens, pushing north from Africa, encountering their Neanderthal cousins. Both groups freeze, staring across the water. This isn't their first meeting. These particular bands have encountered each other before, but tension remains. Resources are scarce. Territory matters. The leader of the Homo sapiens group raises his hand in a gesture that somehow communicates peaceful intent across the species barrier. After a moment, the Neanderthal group responds in kind. What happens next would shock the Victorian scientists who first discovered Neanderthal remains. The groups don't fight, they don't run. Instead, they begin to trade. The sapiens have shells from the distant coast, small and gleaming. The Neanderthals have premium flint from their territory, better for tool making than anything the sapiens have found. Items are displayed, examined, exchanged. Wait, so they didn't just club each other and steal their stuff? Nope. The archaeological record shows plenty of evidence for trade between different human species. Violence too, sure, humans gonna human, but cooperation was common. In fact, they did more than trade. Genetic evidence shows that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens interbred. If you're of European or Asian descent, about 2% of your DNA comes from Neanderthals. They're literally part of us. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, something equally fascinating was happening. In the forests and mountains of Asia, yet another human species had emerged, the Denisovans. We know less about them. They were only discovered in 2010 from a finger bone. But we know they were also intelligent toolmakers with large brains. And there were others, Homo floresiensis, the hobbits of Indonesia, standing just over 3 feet tall, Homo luzonensis in the Philippines, red deer cave people in China. The world was full of different types of humans, each adapted to their own environmental niche. It was like Lord of the Rings, but real. Imagine that world for a second. Different types of intelligent, tool-using, fire-controlling, language-speaking humans coexisting across the planet. It's practically a fantasy novel. But survival was still brutal. Let's shift to a scene from about 150,000 years ago, somewhere in what's now France. A harsh winter storm has driven both a Neanderthal family and a small band of Homo sapiens to seek shelter in the same large cave. The wind howls outside, driving snow into drifts. Inside, 2 separate fires burn. The groups keep their distance, watching each other warily. A Neanderthal child coughs, a deep, rattling sound. The mother holds him closer, worry evident on her face. Disease was a constant companion in the Paleolithic. No antibiotics, no hospitals, just your immune system against whatever was trying to kill you. From the sapiens side, an older woman watches. She's the group's healer, knowledgeable in medicinal plants. After a long moment of internal debate, she rises, selects several leaves and roots from a pouch, and cautiously approaches the Neanderthal family. She's like, "I know what'll help that cough," I narrate. And the Neanderthal mum's thinking, "If you poison my kid, I will literally tear your arms off." The tension is thick as the healer gestures to the sick child, then to the plants, then makes a drinking motion. Cross-species communication without a shared language. Finally, the Neanderthal mother gives a curt nod. The healer returns to her fire, mixes the plants with water, lets them steep. When the mixture is ready, she brings it to the child. Under the watchful eyes of his parents, he drinks. By morning, his cough has improved. A small moment of connection across the species barrier, knowledge shared, a life possibly saved. The groups still maintain their distance, but something has shifted between them. These interactions, sometimes cooperative, sometimes competitive, continued for thousands of years. But around 40,000 years ago, something changed. Neanderthals began to disappear. So did the Denisovans and other human species. By 25,000 years ago, only Homo sapiens remained. What happened? The old theory was that we simply killed them all, violent replacement, but the evidence doesn't really support that. There's no archaeological signature of widespread warfare or genocide. More likely, it was a complex mix of factors. Climate change damaged environments Neanderthals were specialized for. Homo sapiens had slightly better technology and more flexible social structures. When resources became scarce, sapiens could adapt faster, and the interbreeding that occurred didn't help Neanderthals maintain their distinct identity. Think of it like small businesses versus Walmart. It wasn't necessarily that Walmart went around burning down all the mom-and-pop shops. They just outcompeted them, absorbed some of their employees, and over time, the small shops faded away. The loss of our cousin species was hardly noticed by the Homo sapiens of the time. They were too busy surviving, innovating, spreading across the globe. But from our perspective, looking back, it was the end of a unique period in Earth's history, the time when many kinds of humans shared the world. Before we move on, let's look at one more scene from this era of human diversity. It's night. A thunderstorm rages outside a cave in Western Europe. Inside, a small group of Neanderthals huddles around a fire. They've survived another day, hunted, gathered, maintained their tools, kept the fire going. An elder begins to speak, his deep voice carrying over the storm's rumble. He's telling a story. We know Neanderthals had language, so they almost certainly had stories. Maybe it's about the great hunt of seasons past. Maybe it's about the sky spirits who throw lightning. Maybe it's just gossip about the neighbouring band. The children listen, eyes wide. The adults nod at familiar parts. For all their physical differences, this scene would be recognizable to any human culture on Earth. The sharing of narrative, the passage of knowledge, the comfort of story in the darkness. The fire pops and sparks rise. Outside, the future waits, a future that, though they don't know it, won't include them. But tonight, they are here. They are people. And their legacy lives on in the DNA of billions of modern humans. As you drift deeper towards sleep, think about those lost cousins, the different kinds of minds that once thought and dreamed on this planet. And as your own mind wanders toward unconsciousness, remember that you carry fragments of those extinct humans with you, not just in your genes, but in the tools you use, the fire you control, the stories you tell. The age of human diversity was ending. The age of Homo sapiens dominance was about to begin, and with it would come an explosion of culture, art, and technology that would transform the world. The blood is everywhere, on the walls, the floor, your hands, but it's not a crime scene, it's the first art studio in human history. We're about 40,000 years ago, deep in a limestone cave somewhere in what will eventually be called France. The flickering light of a small, fat-burning lamp casts dancing shadows on the rough stone walls. A person, anatomically modern human, just like you, is mixing powdered red ochre with animal fat to create a thick paste. This isn't finger painting hour at kindergarten. This is something profound. With deliberate movements, this ancient artist presses their hand against the cave wall. Then, using a hollow reed, they blow the red pigment around it, creating a perfect negative image, a hand silhouette frozen in time. They were making hand turkeys? No, smart-ass. They were making meaning, creating symbols, reaching for something beyond the immediate needs of survival. And that's a really big deal. For millions of years, our ancestors' technology had a clear, direct purpose. Crack this nut, cut this meat, scrape this hide. But this handprint serves no practical function. It won't help them hunt better or stay warmer. It's something entirely new, expression. The artist steps back, admiring their work. In the flickering light, that simple handprint almost seems to move, to reach out across time. In a very real way, it is. That hand on the wall is saying something profoundly human. I was here, I existed, and 40,000 years later, we can still hear it. But handprints were just the beginning. In caves across Europe, Asia, and eventually every inhabited continent, humans began creating increasingly sophisticated art. Not just hands, but animals, bison, horses, lions, mammoths, rendered with a skill and understanding of anatomy that would make modern artists jealous. Picture another scene, perhaps 5,000 years later. A group of about 15 people have gathered in a large chamber deep within a cave system. The journey here wasn't easy. Narrow passages, steep climbs, total darkness except for their small lamps. This wasn't a place anyone lived. They came here specifically for something else. An older man mixes pigments, not just red ochre now, but yellow, brown, black, creating a palette of colours. Young apprentices watch carefully, memorising the proportions. This knowledge matters. It will be passed down. So they had art class in a cave? Sort of, yeah. But it was probably more like a religious ceremony than an art lesson. The evidence suggests that these deep cave chambers were special places, possibly connected to ritual and spiritual beliefs. The master artist approaches the wall, which already contains paintings created by previous generations. With expert hands, he begins to add a new bison to the frieze, its muscular form seeming to emerge from the natural contours of the rock. He doesn't just paint what a bison looks like. He captures what a bison feels like. Its power. Its essence. Gotta say, for a bunch of cavemen, they could really paint, says the skeptic in your head. That's the thing. These weren't cavemen in the cartoon sense. These were people with brains identical to yours, with the same capacity for abstract thought, spirituality, and aesthetic appreciation. They just happened to live in the Stone Age, and they weren't just painting animals. In some caves, they created bizarre human-animal hybrids, people with bison heads, birds with human hands. Shamanic figures, perhaps, representing spiritual journeys between the human and animal worlds. Okay, so they were tripping balls in caves? Maybe some researchers believe that these paintings were created in altered states of consciousness, possibly induced by the sensory deprivation of the deep caves themselves, or perhaps by consumed substances. The flickering lights, the echoing sounds, the isolation, it's the perfect setting for a mystical experience. Meanwhile, outside the cave, daily life continued. Let's zoom out and visit a campsite by a river, somewhere in Central Europe, around 30,000 years ago. It's spring, the last of the winter snow is melting, revealing tender new plants. After months of relying on stored food and whatever could be hunted in the harsh winter, this first fresh vegetation is a blessing. A young woman sits by the river, carefully stringing small beads made from shell, bone, and ivory. Each bead represents hours of work. Drilling holes through tiny objects using stone tools requires incredible patience and skill. The finished necklace will contain over 100 beads. Pure ostentation, completely impractical, utterly human. Nearby, an old man carefully chips at a small piece of mammoth ivory. Under his skilled hands, a figure emerges, a woman with exaggerated breasts and hips, one of the famous Venus figurines found across Europe and Asia. Stone Age porn? Asks your inner teenager. Maybe, but probably not. These figures are found in contexts suggesting ritual significance. They may represent fertility, or an earth goddess, or the female principle in general. Whatever their meaning, they're another example of symbolic thinking, using one thing to represent another. A boy runs up to the necklace maker, breathless with excitement. "Come quick, Ura has returned." The camp bursts into activity. Ura was part of a small group that left weeks ago on a trading expedition to the south. That they've returned means new materials, new knowledge, perhaps even new people. The returning traders are welcomed with embraces and excited chatter. They've brought shells from the distant coast, flint from high-quality sources, and news of other bands. This exchange network, moving materials and information across hundreds of miles, was crucial for Stone Age survival. No single band could access all the resources they needed, and isolation meant vulnerability. That night, around the campfire, Ura tells stories of the journey. His hands gesture expressively, his face animated in the firelight. The children listen, wide-eyed, as he describes strange landscapes, dangerous encounters with unfamiliar tribes, successful negotiations. He's basically going, "So, there I was, thought I was going to die. But then I pulled out our secret weapon, these shiny shells. Their minds were blown," I narrate in my best caveman adventure voice. The audience laughs at the appropriate moments, gasps at others. This oral tradition, storytelling around the fire, was how knowledge was preserved and shared. No writing yet, just memory and narrative. After the stories, there's music. A young man plays a flute carved from vulture bone, its haunting notes rising into the night sky. Others tap rhythms on stretched hides or simply with sticks against hollow logs. They sing in languages lost to time. This wasn't just entertainment. Music, like art, served to bond the group, to create shared experiences and emotions. In a world where survival depended on cooperation, anything that strengthened social ties was adaptive. The night grows late. Most of the band retires to their shelters. Not caves, usually, but tents made of hides stretched over wooden frames, or lean-tos built against rock faces. Simple structures, but effective protection from the elements. But not everyone sleeps. At the edge of the camp, a small group gathers around a freshly dug pit. Inside lies the body of an elderly woman who died that morning. She's been arranged carefully, her body adorned with red ochre, surrounded by beads, tools, and carved figurines. As the group watches, a young woman, perhaps the deceased's granddaughter, places one final item in the grave, a necklace of perforated fox teeth. Then, with quiet efficiency, they begin to cover the body with earth. This is one of the most profound developments in human prehistory. Formal burial with grave goods. It suggests belief in an afterlife, or at least the idea that the dead person would need these items somewhere beyond death. It's abstract thinking about mortality, identity, and continuation. So that's when religion started? Not exactly. We can't know precisely when spiritual beliefs began, but they almost certainly predated formal burials. The careful treatment of the dead, however, gives us tangible evidence of such beliefs. As the burial concludes, the participants return to camp, their faces solemn in the dying firelight. The rhythms of life and death, creation and loss continue as they always have. Over the next 20,000 years, these symbolic behaviours, art, adornment, ritual, music, would flourish across the human world. As our species spread to every habitable continent, we carried these practices with us, adapting them to new environments while maintaining their essential nature. In Australia, newly arrived humans created rock art depicting the Dreamtime, their understanding of the world's creation. In the Americas, early inhabitants developed their own artistic and spiritual traditions. Africa, the human homeland, continued its rich development of symbolic culture. The tools were getting better too. Around 30,000 years ago, humans invented the atlatl, a spear thrower that effectively extended the arm, allowing hunters to launch projectiles with greater force and accuracy. Bow and arrow technology followed in some regions. Specialized tools for woodworking, hide preparation, and plant processing multiplied. Let's visit one last scene from this era. It's 20,000 years ago, the height of the last major ice age. A small band of humans makes their way across a vast treeless plain in what will someday be Ukraine. The horizon seems endless, the sky impossibly large. Despite the harsh conditions, these people are thriving. They wear tailored clothing made from animal hides, sewn together with sinew using bone needles. Their garments are not just functional, but decorated with beads and embroidery. They carry sophisticated tools, not just stone now, but bone, antler, and ivory. When they stop to make camp, they construct a remarkable shelter, not a simple lean-to, but a semi-subterranean house built from mammoth bones. Dozens of massive skulls and tusks form the foundation and walls, covered with hides to create a warm, protected space that can withstand the brutal winter. Inside this bone house, life continues. Children play with toys, miniature animals carved from antler. Women create new tools, repair clothing, prepare food. Men plan the next hunt, craft weapons, tell stories of past exploits. The space is lit by lamps burning animal fat. The air thick with the smells of cooking, bodies, smoke. On one mammoth tusk, someone has carved a map, the earliest known cartographic representation. It shows rivers, hills, the location of neighbouring bands. Another piece of ivory bears a calendar of sorts, notches marking the phases of the moon, their tracking time, understanding their place in space. This is the culmination of millions of years of human evolution and cultural development, from the first simple stone tools to this complex, symbolic, technologically sophisticated lifestyle. And still, they're using stone, still in the Stone Age, but pushing its boundaries to their limits. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine those ancestors in their mammoth bone house, warm despite the frigid world outside, surrounded by their art, their tools, their community. They would still recognize something of themselves in you, in your love of beauty, your need for connection, your capacity for symbolic thought. The worst part of being a Stone Age human wasn't the saber-toothed cats or the lack of antibiotics, it was the weather. Specifically, the absolutely bonkers weather patterns of the late Pleistocene. Picture this. You've spent generations adapting to a cold, dry climate. Your tools, your clothing, your entire way of life is built around hunting large mammals in open tundra. Then, within a single human lifetime, everything warms up. Forests replace grasslands. Your prey animals either migrate north or go extinct. Everything you know about survival becomes obsolete. That's exactly what happened repeatedly between 20,000 and 12,000 years ago as the Earth underwent dramatic climate swings. The last major ice age was ending, but not in a straight line. The planet's temperature bounced up and down like a kid on a sugar rush. So what they do? Just move, asks the modern human who gets annoyed when their favourite coffee shop closes. Yeah, sometimes they moved, but other times they adapted in place, developing entirely new ways of living. This period saw some of the most innovative human societies yet, advanced hunter-gatherers who pushed the stone tool tradition to its absolute limits. Let's visit one of them. We're in what will someday be southern France. Around 15,000 years ago, the massive ice sheets that once covered northern Europe have retreated, but the climate is still cooler than today. A wide river valley stretches before us, bordered by forests of pine and birch. In the distance, herds of reindeer graze on the valley floor. A camp of about 50 people is nestled against a limestone cliff. These aren't the nomadic bands of earlier periods. They're semi-sedentary, staying in this favourable location for months at a time before moving to their next seasonal camp. The shelters are substantial, frameworks of wood covered with hides, some partially dug into the ground for better insulation. Outside each dwelling, people are engaged in specialized tasks. This isn't just about survival anymore, it's about efficiency, expertise, and even artistry. Look, I know they didn't have YouTube tutorials, but how'd they get so good at this stuff? Asks your inner skeptic. Practice, generations of accumulated knowledge, and something new, specialized roles within the community. See that older woman sitting by the central hearth? She's not just any elder, she's the group's master flint napper. Young apprentices watch as her gnarled hands transform a nodule of flint into a perfectly symmetrical blade with just a few precise strikes. The blade is so thin you could almost see through it, sharper than any steel kitchen knife you own. She's like, this technique has been in my family for 10 generations. No pressure, kid, but don't screw it up, I narrate in a creaky old woman voice. The apprentice, a teenage girl with focused eyes, attempts to replicate the master's technique. Her first try shatters the flint core. The elder doesn't scold her, but instead picks up the pieces, showing her how even these can be worked into smaller tools. Nothing is wasted. Nearby, a group of men and women are preparing for a hunt, but they're not just grabbing spears and heading out. They're engaged in a detailed discussion, almost a ritual, planning every aspect of the expedition. One man sketches in the dirt with a stick, mapping the herd's likely movement patterns based on years of observation. Another woman demonstrates a new spear thrower design that will add crucial distance and power to their throws. A third person applies fresh ochre designs to their faces, not just decoration but identity markers that will help them coordinate during the chaotic hunt. They're basically going, you three flank from the east, we'll drive them south toward the marshland where they'll slow down, explains a hunter with elaborate facial markings, using terms they definitely didn't have but concepts they absolutely understood. This level of planning, of strategic thinking, was one of humanity's greatest advantages. While other predators relied on physical attributes, speed, strength, sharp teeth, humans used their minds to outthink their prey. Inside one of the larger shelters, another kind of expertise is on display. A middle-aged woman sorts through piles of plant materials, roots, stems, leaves, berries. She's the group's healer, with encyclopedic knowledge of which plants can ease pain, reduce fever, stop bleeding, or cure digestive problems. She's currently treating a young hunter with a deep gash on his arm. She cleans the wound with a decoction of certain leaves, which, unknown to her, contain natural antiseptics, then applies a poultice of crushed herbs. Finally, she wraps the wound with a strip of clean hide. "This will fight the angry spirits in the wound," she explains to the young man. Her understanding is based in the supernatural, but her treatments often work because of properties she's observed through trial and error over decades. So they had medicine, but thought it was magic? Sort of. The line between practical knowledge and spiritual belief wasn't clear-cut for them. Both were ways of understanding and controlling their world. Evening approaches. The hunting party returns, dragging the carcasses of 2 reindeer. The camp erupts in activity. This is the moment when everyone's specialized skills come together in a complex choreography of food processing. Some people butcher the animals with specialized stone tools designed specifically for separating meat from bone. Others scrape the hides, preparing them for tanning. The bones are sorted, some for tools, others for marrow extraction. The sinew is carefully removed for use as thread. The antlers are set aside for the tool makers. Even the hooves and stomach contents have uses. Nothing is wasted. Everything has a purpose. This efficiency, born of necessity and accumulated knowledge, allowed these hunter-gatherers to thrive in environments that would kill most modern humans within days. As darkness falls, the community gathers around the central fire. Meat roasts on wooden spits. Children play with toys carved from antler and bone, miniature animals, dolls with movable limbs. The material culture of these people wasn't just functional. It included objects made purely for entertainment and learning. An elderly man begins to speak, his voice rising and falling in the rhythms of formal storytelling. He's recounting their group's history, migrations, great hunts, conflicts with other bands, alliances formed and broken. This oral tradition is their library, their archive, containing practical knowledge wrapped in narrative. Then great-grandfather Rock followed the herds north after the long winter, where he met the people of the Red Mountain, who taught him the secret of the new spear point, which is why I continue in my best storyteller voice. The children listen, eyes wide, absorbing not just the story but the critical survival information embedded within it. The adults nod at familiar parts, occasionally correcting a detail or adding context. This is education, history, entertainment, and community building all at once. After the stories, there's music. A bone flute plays a haunting melody. People sing in harmony, complex rhythms tapped out on drums made of stretched hide. They dance around the fire, movements telling stories of animals, hunts, natural forces. What we're witnessing isn't just culture, it's the full flowering of human creativity within the constraints of a Stone Age technology. These people lived hard lives by our standards, but they weren't simply surviving. They were creating, innovating, finding meaning. As the celebration continues, let's shift our perspective. About a mile downstream, another small group makes camp for the night. They're not part of the main band, but a trading party from a different community. They've travelled over 100 miles, carrying distinctive seashells from the coast that are highly valued as decorative items. Tomorrow, they'll exchange these shells for the high-quality flint that this region is known for. This trade network, spanning hundreds of miles, connecting groups who might never actually meet, was another key innovation of advanced hunter-gatherers. Wait, they had like a Stone Age economy? Absolutely. Complete with specialized production, middlemen, and even luxury goods. Certain items, particularly beautiful shells, high-quality toolstone, and amber, traveled hundreds or even thousands of miles through these networks. Dawn breaks. In the main camp, the day begins with the practical tasks of survival, but even these are elevated by expertise and specialization. Women gather at the river's edge to process hides using stone scrapers and the animal's own brains as a tanning agent. Their movements are practiced, efficient, their conversation flowing as they work. "Girl, you would not believe what Karg said to me after the hunt yesterday," one woman gossips to her friends, using words they definitely didn't have but human dynamics that never change. Elsewhere, older children learn to identify edible plants under the watchful eye of an elder. This isn't casual instruction, it's a structured curriculum developed over generations, teaching not just which plants are safe, but when they're available, where they grow, how to process them, and how to preserve them. "This one will give you the runs like you wouldn't believe," warns the instructor, holding up an innocent-looking mushroom. "This one, though, this one's good eating, but only if you cook it first." The systematic knowledge of plant properties, nutritional, medicinal and toxic, represented one of humanity's most important adaptations. It allowed our species to survive seasonal shortages and expand into new territories with unfamiliar flora. By midday, the trading party arrives. There's initial wariness. Relations between different bands could be tense, but established protocols guide the interaction. Gifts are exchanged, formal speeches given, kinship connections recited to establish trust. Then the trading begins in earnest. Shells, amber, and pigments from distant regions are laid out alongside local specialties, finely crafted tools, cured hides, medicinal herbs. The interactions go beyond mere economic exchange. News is shared, marriages arranged, alliances reinforced. So the head trader's going, "These shells came all the way from the Great Water to the west, took us 30 days' journey, almost got eaten by a cave lion. I mean, look at this craftsmanship. This is top shelf stuff right here," I narrate in my best sales pitch voice. This complex social landscape, bands connected through trade, marriage and alliance networks, created a kind of resilience. If one group faced hardship, they could rely on these connections for support, sharing resources and knowledge across a vast landscape. As the day winds down, let's look at one more aspect of these advanced hunter-gatherers, their relationship with the animal world. It wasn't simply predatory. The evidence suggests a complex spiritual connection, perhaps even seeing themselves as kin to certain species. In a small cave above the main camp, a ritual is taking place. By the light of fat-burning lamps, a shaman, face-painted, wearing a headdress of antlers, performs a ceremony before a hunt. On the walls around him are paintings of the animals they hunt, rendered with incredible accuracy and empathy. The shaman enters a trance state through rhythmic drumming and dance. In this altered consciousness, he believes he can communicate with the spirits of the animals, ensuring a successful hunt by obtaining their permission to take some of their number. He's basically saying, "Great spirit of reindeer, we respect you, we need you. Please let us catch a few of your children so we don't all starve to death," I explain in a reverent whisper. This wasn't mere superstition. This worldview, seeing humans as part of nature rather than separate from it, created a kind of ecological awareness. Many hunter-gatherer societies developed taboos and practices that effectively worked as conservation measures, preventing overhunting and maintaining sustainable relationships with their resource base. As night falls again, the camp settles into sleep. In their sturdy shelters wrapped in furs, these Stone Age people rest more comfortably than their ancestors could have imagined. Their world is still harsh, still dangerous, but they've created a way of life that not only ensures survival, but allows for beauty, meaning, and connection. The firelight dims. Outside, the stars wheel overhead, the same stars we see today, though they knew them by different names and stories. The river murmurs its constant song, and humanity continues its long journey through the Stone Age, edging ever closer to one of the most profound transformations in our history. As your own eyes grow heavy, imagine those ancestors sleeping under animal hides, their dreams perhaps not so different from your own. Dreams of security, of connection, of understanding the mysterious world around them. The technology has changed immensely, but the human spirit they nurtured is the same one that lives in you. Imagine watching your dinner grow, not hunting it, not gathering it, just waiting for it to appear right where you left it. That's exactly what blew the minds of our ancestors around 12,000 years ago, when the most revolutionary technology in human history wasn't invented so much as it was noticed. Agriculture. We're in the Fertile Crescent, that sweeping arc of land from Egypt through the Levant and down to Mesopotamia. The last ice age has ended, the climate has stabilized, and a woman is doing something that will change everything. She's planting seeds, deliberately, in prepared ground. She doesn't look remarkable. Brown skin weathered by sun, hands calloused from work, simple clothing made from woven plant fibers rather than animal hide. But what she's doing is extraordinary. Was she like, guys, I put the seeds in the ground and they made more seeds? It's like, no, I made no magic, I narrate in an excited whisper. It wasn't quite that sudden. The transition to agriculture happened gradually, over thousands of years. Hunter-gatherers had always known that plants grew from seeds. They weren't idiots, but the leap to deliberately cultivating them, to staying in one place to tend them, to selecting the best specimens for next year's planting, that was new. And it started with people who weren't even trying to invent agriculture. They were just being practical. Let's back up a bit. Around 15,000 years ago, the Earth began warming as the last glacial period ended. This climate change, the natural kind, dramatically altered ecosystems. In the Fertile Crescent, wild cereals like wheat and barley began flourishing in the new conditions. Hunter-gatherer groups in these regions started including more of these wild grains in their diet, but harvesting them efficiently required new tools: sickles with sharp stone blades, baskets for carrying, grinding stones for processing. They began spending more time in these grain-rich areas, perhaps building seasonal camps to harvest during specific times of year. Some groups noticed that where they spilled seeds or discarded plant waste, new plants would grow the following season. Gradually, they began intentionally scattering seeds near their camps, then planting them more systematically, then selecting the largest grains to plant next time. It wasn't a eureka moment. It was generations of small adaptations leading to a completely new way of life. Now let's visit one of the world's earliest farming villages, Jericho, around 10,000 years ago. The first thing that hits you is how different it looks from the nomadic camps we've seen before. Instead of temporary shelters, there are permanent houses built of mud brick, square structures clustered together, creating a small settlement of perhaps a few hundred people. A stone wall surrounds the community, not primarily for defense, archaeologists believe, but for flood protection and to keep wild animals out of the precious crop fields that surround the settlement. Inside the walls, the complexity of this society is immediately apparent. People aren't just doing whatever needs to be done at the moment. They have specialized roles. Some are farmers, spending their days tending wheat and barley in the fields. Others herd the recently domesticated goats and sheep that provide meat, milk, and wool. Still others are craftspeople, creating pottery, textiles, and stone tools. So everyone's got like a job now. Yeah, basically. And that specialization allowed for incredible innovations. Look at that woman sitting in the doorway of her home. She's working with clay, shaping it into a vessel on a small wheel that she turns with her hand. Pottery was one of the revolutionary technologies that came with settled life. Containers that could store grain for months or years, allowing communities to survive drought and other disasters. She's thinking, "This pot's gonna change everything," I narrate in a deeply serious voice. Little did she know she was right. Nearby, a man works a different kind of magic. He's weaving plant fibers into cloth on a simple loom. Textiles were another game changer, more versatile than animal hides, able to be produced without hunting, ideal for the warmer climate that now prevailed. Inside the homes, life has changed too. Instead of the minimal possessions of nomadic hunter-gatherers, these people have stuff, lots of stuff. Pottery vessels filled with grain, stone tools for specific purposes, baskets, textiles, wooden implements, things too heavy or bulky for a nomadic lifestyle, but perfectly suited to settled living. But not everything about this new lifestyle was an improvement. Let's listen in on a conversation between two farmers returning from the fields at dusk, their stone hoes resting on their shoulders. "My back is killing me," the younger one complains, stretching with a grimace. "Been over those plants all day," the older man nods sympathetically. "Better than chasing deer through the forest for days, though." "Is it? At least hunting is exciting. This is just the same thing, day after day. Until the hunt fails and everyone starves," the older man counters. "My grandfather told stories about the bad years when the herds didn't come. Half the band died before spring." They walk in silence for a moment, passing the community's central well, another innovation of settled life. "Besides," the older man continues, "the hunters had to go where the animals went. Here we have our homes, our families. My daughter will have her baby in the same house where she was born. There's something good in that." This conversation captures the trade-offs of the agricultural revolution. Settled farming was more reliable than hunting and gathering, but it was also more monotonous, more physically taxing in different ways. Hunter-gatherers actually worked fewer hours per day than early farmers, but they faced greater risk of catastrophic food shortages. And there were new problems too. As people lived in larger, more permanent settlements close to their animals and waste, disease became more common. Evidence shows that early farmers were often less healthy than their hunter-gatherer ancestors, shorter with more dental problems and signs of nutritional deficiencies. Wait, so farming was kind of a downgrade? In some ways, yes, but it allowed for something hunter-gatherers could never achieve: population density. A given area of farmland could support far more people than the same area used for hunting and gathering. More people meant more ideas, more innovation, more complexity. For better or worse, it set us on the path to civilization. Let's move forward a few thousand years to around 7000 BCE. We're now in what will someday be called Anatolia, at a remarkable settlement known to archaeology as Çatalhöyük. This isn't just a village anymore. It's a town of perhaps 10,000 people. The houses are packed so tightly together that there are no streets. People walk on the rooftops and enter their homes through openings in the ceiling. The interior walls are plastered and painted with elaborate murals, hunting scenes, geometric patterns, and strange symbols. Inside one house, a family gathers around a central hearth. The mother grinds grain on a stone quern, turning wheat berries into flour for bread. The father shapes a piece of obsidian, volcanic glass, into a blade of incredible sharpness. Children play with clay figurines of animals and people. "Not so different from us," observes the father, "except, no TV, no phones, no internet, no cars, no electricity, no indoor plumbing." The level of material culture is astonishing compared to what we've seen before. There are wooden containers, fine textiles, pottery in various specialized forms, stone tools of exceptional craftsmanship. People are buried beneath the floors of their homes, sometimes with elaborate grave goods suggesting beliefs about an afterlife and social hierarchies. This isn't just a different way of getting food. This is a completely different way of being human. But the Stone Age isn't quite over yet. To see its final chapter, let's travel to yet another location, the Balkans, around 5500 BCE, where something shiny is about to change the world again. A man sits beside a peculiar clay structure, a furnace of sorts, with air being pumped into it through a tube using a simple bellows made from animal skin. Inside, nestled among the hot coals, is a small lump of greenish rock, copper ore. As the heat intensifies, something magical happens. Beads of pure metal begin to form, dripping down to collect at the bottom of the furnace. When the process is complete, the man carefully extracts a small lump of copper, malleable, shiny, and unlike any stone tool material he's ever worked with. He's staring at it like, "What is this sorcery?" I whispered dramatically. Little does he know he's literally ending the Stone Age. Metallurgy, first copper, then bronze, copper alloyed with tin, and eventually iron, would transform human technology. Metal tools could be sharper, stronger, and more durable than stone. They could be repaired rather than replaced when damaged, and they could be recycled, melted down, and reformed into new tools when needed. But the transition wasn't instant. Stone tools continued to be used alongside metal ones for thousands of years. In some parts of the world, the Stone Age lasted much longer, until European contact in places like Australia and parts of the Americas. The legacy of the Stone Age surrounds us even now. The basic technologies humans developed during those millions of years, controlled use of fire, cooking, clothing, complex tools, symbolic expression, remain fundamental to our existence. Even the structure of our societies bears the imprint of those ancient innovations. From those first simple chopping tools 3.3 million years ago to the complex societies of early farmers, the Stone Age shaped what it means to be human. Our big brains, our dexterous hands, our capacity for language and abstract thought, all were forged in the crucible of stone technology and the social structures it enabled. As you drift towards sleep, think about those countless generations of ancestors who carried the human story forward, step by step, innovation by innovation. Their legacy lives in every aspect of your modern life, from the cooked food you eat to the symbolic language you use to the social bonds you form. The world outside your window would be unrecognizable to them, but you, your fundamental humanity, your needs, your emotions, your capacity for wonder would be immediately familiar, because despite all our technology, we remain the children of the Stone Age. Sleep now, knowing you're part of that unbroken human story, stretching back millions of years and forward into a future our ancestors could never have imagined. The Stone Age made us who we are, and that legacy will never truly end. Rest well, dreaming perhaps of those ancient fires, those first